Jai Hind, ladies and gentlemen. Very warm greetings and a hearty welcome to each one of you for joining this video presentation on analysis of accidents and lessons learned. Boeing 737-800 accident at Kochi on 04th September 2017. The objective of this video presentation is to create awareness among operators, pilots, airport management, and ATC controllers related to the adverse effects of power distance, poor crew resource management, fatigue, and lack of effective implementation of safety management system. We must learn lessons from others' experience, lest the history repeats itself. Let's now move on to the video presentation. First, we shall have a look at the sequence of events of this accident. Boeing 737-800 aircraft was involved in an occurrence on 4th September 2017 at 21:12 hours UTC, that is 5th September 2017 at 0242 Indian Standard Time at Cochin Airport while operating flight from Abu Dhabi to Cochin. The captain was 59 years old, highly experienced with almost 14,500 hours of flying experience, including 4,176 hours on type. Co-pilot, 28 years old, total flying experience 1,429 hours and 1,139 hours of flying on Boeing 737-800. Both PIC and co-pilot were operating flight time together for Cochin Abu Dhabi Cochin flight. The aircraft was given landing clearance by ATC at 210324 UTC, informing landing surface wet, runway 27, clear to land, wind 050 degree 03 knots. As per METAR, at 2100 UTC, the visibility was 4,000 meters, which reduced to 3,000 meters at 2130 UTC. ATC informed crew before landing regarding range and runway surface as wet. At 210715 UTC, the aircraft landed, and at 210741 UTC, ATC informed aircraft to vacate via convenient right. Since the aircraft touched runway late at approximately 4,900 feet from the beginning of runway 27 near taxiway C3, it vacated via C2 instead of usual C3 exit due to delayed touchdown. After landing, the aircraft vacated the runway from Charlie 2 and was given taxi clearance to Bay 23 left via Charlie Foxtrot Lima and hold short of Taxiway Lima, due another aircraft taxiing out from Bay 20. As per CVR, while taxiing, co-pilot informed PIC about passing taxiway Echo and next is Foxtrot. Also, the co-pilot requested PIC, who was at controls, to go slow as runway markings were not visible, and advised to call follow me jeep. Co-pilot informed PIC that she cannot see any markings. However, there was no response from PIC. The aircraft, after crossing Abeam Taxiway Eco on Taxiway Charlie, made a premature turn left 90 meters before Taxiway Foxtrot. After covering a little distance, the aircraft entered an open rainwater drain which was 3 meters wide, having a depth of 1.7 meters on taxiway side. Runway parallel to taxiway Charlie. Situated at the shorter distance of 43.55 meters from the center line of taxiway Charlie. PIC applied total 3 times for the aircraft to come out of the drain, in spite of the fact that the co-pilot advised the captain not to do so. The aircraft did not come out of a drain and remained stuck in the drain. The aircraft received major structural damage, including damage to nose landing gear, engine inlet cowlings, fan cowlings, engine strut, lower skin, etc. Now we shall discuss the analysis by Aviation Safety India. In the considered opinion of Aviation Safety Management Society of India professionals, this accident occurred due to poor CRM as a result of power distance, the fatigue factor of the captain, and lack of involvement from the aircraft and airport operators. The contributory factors for the accident were wet runway and poor visibility conditions, availability of only alternate taxi lights on low intensity, inability of the pilots to see clearly the taxi track markings, operations during window of circadian low, sea of blue effect, absence of any light markings to caution the pilots about the presence of the drain, maybe possibly complacency on the part of the captain leading to loss of situational awareness. The inquiry team seemed to have not deliberated enough on the point as to why a highly qualified and experienced captain turned blindly 90 meters before the turning towards Foxtrot taxi track without confirming the correct place to turn. Such erratic actions are generally taken if the pilot is fatigued, stressed, and under tension due to fear of loss of professional reputation. No questions seem to have been asked to the captain as to why he failed to respond to the caution by the co-pilot when she repeatedly told the captain that visibility is poor and she is unable to see the taxi track markings and advised the captain to go slow and ask for follow me jeep. It is indeed intriguing that the captain opened the throttle 3 times to move the aircraft forward when the aircraft was on its belly in the drain in spite of the caution of the co-pilot. The complete perspective of the captain and co-pilot related to the ground from the cockpit would have changed when the aircraft came to rest on its engines and belly. How come the pilots did not realize this major change in perspective? The touchdown of the aircraft at 4,900 feet after the beginning of the runway go to show that the pilot was fatigued, due to which he was not situationally aware. The failure of the pilot to respond to the cautions by the co-pilot also points to either the arrogance of the captain by virtue of large power distance or an uncertain, confused, and fatigued state of mind of the captain. Next important thing is crew resource management due to poor crew resource management due to large power distance. There appeared to be a serious lack of CRM, that is communication, leadership, teamwork, and synergy between the captain and co-pilot. There was a vast gap between the ages. Captain 59 years, co-pilot 28 years. Experience captain 14,500 hours, co-pilot around 1,500 hours. And status captain very senior commander, co-pilot very junior. Thus, there was a large power distance between captain and co-pilot by virtue of the vast difference in age, experience, and status. The large power distance takes away the ability of the co-pilot to speak up, give flight and safety related inputs to the captain, to advise the captain if he is going wrong or committing errors, and to be assertive. Crew pairing is an important part of crew resource management. The captain and co-pilot were flying together for the first time, and the large power distance between the pilots played a major role in the causation of this serious occurrence. In addition, male and female crew composition can lead to a lack of synergy which may affect the safety of the flight. Although in this accident, the co-pilot appeared to be alert and kept advising captain correctly, but the captain failed to pay any heed to the co-pilot due to maybe his ego or confidence, arrogance, and complacency, which unfortunately comes in most pilots with age, experience, seniority, and status, that is, power distance. Due to power distance, the co-pilot was not assertive enough, for which of course he can't be blamed, since the majority of the co-pilots are not able to speak up to the captain, which is a shortcoming in the CRM training with consequent compromise on safety. The captain ignored the inputs from the co-pilot, where she clearly stated repeated, repeatedly that please taxi slowly since she not able to see the center line markings, advised the captain to ask for follow me jeep and not to open throttle when the pilot was trying to take out the aircraft from the drain. It appeared that the pilot was not aware that the aircraft was in the drain. Next, we'll talk about the fatigue factors. As per the statement of the captain, he had not slept well and was obviously sleepy, yawning in the cockpit. Long flight in the night, adverse weather, and operation during window of circadian low added to the fatigue factor of the captain, particularly since he was already suffering from lack of sleep. Fatigue leads to increased reaction time, reduced attentiveness, impaired memory, and withdrawn mood. The very late touchdown, that is 4,900 feet ahead from the beginning of the runway, lack of response to the inputs from the co-pilot, turning 90 meters before the correct turning point, failure to realize that the aircraft has got into the drain, and opening throttle to move the aircraft forward 3 times shows that the pilot was terribly fatigued, stressed, and obviously confused. Next, we'll talk about situational awareness. The situational awareness displayed by the pilots appears to be poor. They are high and fast on approach, due to which they landed after 4,900 feet from the beginning of the runway. Why they landed at 4,900 feet from the beginning of the runway had not been deliberated by the investigating team. The co-pilot appeared to be better situationally aware than the captain while taxiing. If the co-pilot could not see the center line marking due to rain, then captain also must have not been able to see the center line. However, the captain failed to make any comments on whether he can see the center line or not, in response to the co-pilot, who has been saying repeatedly that he can't see the center line. When the co-pilot as well as the captain were not able to see the center line markings, why they did not request ATC to increase the intensity of the lights to high and also to switch on all the taxi lights. Pilots had not realized that the taxi lights were on low intensity and only alternate lights were on, and the fact that increase in the intensity of lights would have helped them to see better. The captain turned 90 meters short of the Foxtrot taxi track without seeing or being sure, consulting or taking any help from the co-pilot, who of course stated that when the pilot turned, she was cleaning her spectacle and adjusting windscreen wipers. Turning without seeing and not being sure is a strange and irrational act on the part of the pilot. The action of the pilot to open the throttle 3 times in an attempt to come out of the drain, in spite of the advice of the co-pilot not to open the throttle, is intriguing to say the least, since the action of the pilot to open throttle to move his aircraft forward when the aircraft was stuck in the drain and the engines were resting on ground could have resulted in catastrophic consequences. It appears that the pilot was under the impression that he has encountered something minor which is affecting the forward movement of aircraft, and it can be overcome by opening throttle, least realizing that his aircraft was in a drain 3 meters wide and 1.7 meters deep. Surely the pilots must have heard the thud and felt something very unusual when the aircraft's nose wheel got into the drain, collapsed, and the aircraft came to rest on its engines and belly with wheels dangling in the drain. The pilot appeared to have not paid any attention to the unusual occurrence, which is indicative of very high levels of fatigue or stress of the captain, who was unable to understand and cope with the situation. The pilots seemed to have no knowledge about the existence of the drain parallel to the taxi track. There were no caution lights to indicate the presence of the drain. The ATC had no clue about the position of the aircraft after it landed and was confused about the communication between the pilots and ATC. The ATC controller failed to activate the airport emergency services in time, even after knowing that the aircraft had got into ditch. The delay of almost 25 minutes by the fire tender to reach the aircraft after the accident had taken place can be attributed to the lack of correct information from the pilots to ATC, lack of situational awareness by the ATC controller, and consequent delay in activating the emergency and fire services. The ATC controller should have known that the taxi centerline markings may not be visible to the pilots, particularly in rain. It must have been in the knowledge of the controllers that the taxi centerline markings may not be visible since they have been receiving inputs from a number of aircraft during past months about the inability to see the centerline markings. The ATC should have cautioned the pilots and switched on all the taxi lights on high intensity. ATC controllers should have known that the aircraft is landing in rain in the night and during window of circadian low after a long flight. And the controller should have been more alert, vigilant, and situationally aware. The ATC controller at the time was busy handling 4 other aircraft and obviously was overloaded with work. The watch safety officer should have been more involved in the supervision and monitoring of the aircraft movement during this critical period of the operations. The controller increased the intensity of taxi lights after the accident, which served no purpose in preventing the accident. If he had been situationally aware, he would have switched on all the taxi lights and increased the intensity of lights before the aircraft landed. Now, aircraft operator related issues. The operators, supervisors at the airport seem to have paid no attention to the issue of large power distance between the captain and the co-pilot, and the fact that the pilots were operating a flight together for the first time. There appears to be an inadequate emphasis on the problems associated with large power distance between crew members during the conduct of crew resource management training by the operator. The lack of knowledge of the pilots about the sea of blue effect is evident in this accident. The station manager, oblique duty officer, oblique dispatcher of the operators at Cochin did not seem to be aware about the problems related to the sighting of the centerline marking in rain by the pilots. Even if they were aware, they did nothing about it. Then next is the airport operators. Subsequent to the painting of the Charlie taxi track centerline in the month of March, a number of pilots had communicated to the ATC about their inability to see the taxi centerline, possibly due to its fading. The Foxtrot taxi track centerline was of course painted in the month of July. During the month of July, August, and partly September, Cochin experiences heavy rains, which would obviously degrade the painting of the centerline. Airport operator did not appreciate this important factor, and no efforts were made to inspect the taxi centerline marking to confirm if they are visible or not. The quality of paint and painting standards also appear to be suspect. The monsoon in the area of Cochin are quite heavy, and airport operator should have taken the adverse effects of monsoon on the condition of painting of the centerline into consideration. The faded condition of the centerline marking should have been observed by the safety department of the airport. The reflective markers were not available to indicate the presence and boundary of the drain at Cochin. It reflects poorly on the knowledge, involvement, supervision, and proactive hazard identification of the safety department of the airport. It is not known whether proper internal DGCA or third-party audit were conducted of the Cochin Airport? If conducted, then how come such glaring issues were not highlighted? It is assumed that effective system of hazard identification, reporting and addressing hazards before they turn into incidents have not been given due attention by the concerned officials. There were no SOPs for switching on all the taxi lights to full brightness in night, particularly during poor visibility and rain, which was the condition in this case. The concerned officials were not aware of the problems associated with the CO blue effect and suitable measures to eliminate or minimize these effects. As such, no SOP was issued for ATC controllers to caution pilots about the likelihood of the sea of blue effect. Now we shall have a look at the lessons learned from this accident. First of all, the proper crew pairing, keeping in mind the power distance, interpersonal relations, teamwork and synergy is of paramount importance for the conduct of safe operations. The aspect of two pilots flying together for the first time during expected adverse conditions like bad weather and long flights in night during the window of circadian low period should be kept in mind by the supervisors, and adequate briefing of these aspects should be ensured. Power distance has led to a large number of accidents and incidents. This aspect should be emphasized, particularly during crew resource management and safety management system training. Need for an open atmosphere in the cockpit, effective communication, teamwork and synergy is essential for the safety and efficiency of the operations. There is no place for arrogance or confidence and complacency among pilots regardless of their experience, age, seniority and status. Input from the co-pilot should not be ignored by the captain, and the co-pilot need to be more assertive if there is no response from the captain to the repeated inputs from the co-pilot. It is essential for the cockpit crew to be situationally aware at all times, and they should not hesitate to inform ATC if they are facing any problem related to the safety of the flight or unable to see the markings, centerline or any other issues. They should not feel that the controller will think poorly of them if they ask for some help. ATC will always be willing to help and respond to the pilot's request promptly. Pilots should not hesitate to ask for follow me jeep, increase in the brightness of the lights, and switching on all lights and any other related assistance as and when required. The airport safety department should be proactive in identification of hazards, addressing and eliminating them before they lead to accident/incident. The lack of visibility of the centerline markings, problems associated with CO blue effect, and absence of the reflective markers to indicate the presence of rain should have been identified, and action could have been taken to address these issues if the supervisors had ensured the proper proactive identification of the hazards. The watch safety officer should be more involved in supervising and monitoring the operation, especially during adverse weather and the window of circadian low period. The fatigue factor, workload, and level of alertness of the ATC controllers in the early morning hour during adverse weather condition should be kept in mind by the WSO/supervisory staff, and accordingly level of supervision should be enhanced. The airport manager of the operator should be more involved, interact with the ATC and safety department, to become aware of the grey areas related to the safety of the aircraft and bring the same to the notice of the pilots so that the pilots are better informed and situationally aware. The knowledge about the CO blue effect should be imparted to the pilots and ATC controllers during recurrent training. The airports which are known to have conditions conducive to CO blue effect must be identified and the details should be circulated to all the operators to brief their pilots about it. The conduct of the internal and DGC audit should be taken seriously. Third-party audits are known to be very effective in identifying hazards, and airport operators should not shy away from third-party audits. The senior management of the aircraft and airport operator should pay special attention to safety and safety management system. There should be a system by which the lessons learned from accident incidents can be disseminated to all pilots and aircraft, helicopter and airport operators. The follow-up action on the recommendations of the investigation team should be implemented in a time-bound manner, and DGCA may consider sharing the completion of the implementation of the recommendations with concerned stakeholders. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for sparing your valuable time to watch this video presentation on accident analysis and lessons learned. Our intention is not to point fingers on anyone, but to make individuals to appreciate their shortcoming in a sporting manner. There is a definite need to give added attention to crew resource management with particular emphasis on adverse effects of power distance. Need for the captain to give due weightage to the inputs from crew members and effective implementation of safety management system at airports. Wishing you all happy and safe flying and many happy landings. Jai Hind.